50 years of United States blockade on Cuba should be finally put to an end. With this appeal, the Cuban ambassador to the UN in Vienna, Norma Estenos, presented the Cuban report to the UN Secretary General, which is to be discussed in New York by the end of the month. The presentation was part of an international initiative to raise public awareness regarding the situation in Cuba. The 50 years of a US blockade on Cuba, intensified extremely by Washington under President Bush during the last year, has resulted in incredible damage to the country.
$93 billion. Can you imagine how many things, how many programs Cuba would have been able to implement in favor of its population with $93 billion up to the year 2007? And last year, the economic damage of the blockade in 2007, only in 2007, was $3.775 billion.
The blockade has strongly affected all sectors in Cuba. The situation is critical, particularly in the finance and healthcare sector. Cuba is not allowed to take international loans due to US pressure or have access to medical equipment required for the treatment of cancer, as it has been provided exclusively by one American company. The greatest victims of those regulations are children between 2 and 6 years old. Ambassador Estenos called this genocide.
We have the cases of children 2, 3, 4, and 6 years old that are really affected because they are, for them it's impossible to get access to have a kind of technology that we have to buy only from one enterprise called Boston Scientific and Amplaxer. They have a kind of dispositive tool technology that is needed for a very specific surgery that those children they need, but we are impossible to get it because of the embargo, of the blockade.
The US blockade has been intensified each year, stressed the Cuban ambassador. It has now affected even Cuba's cooperation with the international organizations like the International Atomic Energy Agency, as well as with many European companies which have merged into consortiums with American enterprises. A clear example of the extraterritorialism unjustly applied by the United States. What could be the way out of the crisis for Cuba, and would the new US administration change course?
Let's hope that Obama is strong enough to make changes, minor changes. If he tries to make bigger changes, he is in danger.
The international initiative for support of Cuba against the US blockade will continue intensively till the end of the month. For the time being, only 23 countries around the world have supported Cuba, and from European Union, only Spain. A Cuban resolution is to be discussed at the United Nations General Assembly on the 29th of October. And this time, Cuba is hoping to receive stronger international support, putting pressure on the United States to end 50 years of economic and financial blockade against the island nation. Eva Manasieva, Press TV, from the United Nations in Vienna.